Welcome, friends and family of Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I'm so glad you could join us this afternoon. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I'm the Senior Minister at the Center for Spiritual Living, and we welcome you and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to do our little intro and tell you a bit about who we are. I think we may have some first-time visitors with us today, so want to just welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living. If you're not already familiar with us as a group, Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is just one of hundreds of centers for spiritual living located all throughout the United States and North America and the rest of the world. And here at this particular Center for Spiritual Living, these are our values. We value spiritual growth and practice, which is why we come together as a community for all of us to grow and to learn together. We come together to share love and to be that love in the world that is so very needed. We value appreciation. We appreciate our spiritual community. We appreciate others and all that Spirit provides for us. We value community and we value freedom. And I'm going to go through the rest of the list because I want to get to our program. We value creativity, health, wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. And our mission at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is the same as the mission of the larger organization, which is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. And we're going to be sharing one of those tools today. Our guest speaker is going to be sharing a tool that she used for personal transformation. And our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. In other words, we believe in Centers for Spiritual Living that we are all the manifestation of Spirit itself, each one of us, just a unique little bit of spirit in expression. And we want people to know that and to own that. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. All right, I think I forgot to put my mic on, so I'm going to do that. Maybe we'll have a little bit better sound. And right now, I'm going to introduce our practitioners. Let me bring Donna and Norma into the screen now. I don't know if I'm supposed to bring both of you in. You hear, Donna? Nope. There we go.
Fine.
Okay, you're unmuting yourself and we were going back and forth. Welcome, Donna and Norma. How you ladies doing?
We're good.
And you're in Ocala?
Yes.
Woohoo!
Home.
Finally back home in your own place.
Yes. And it's
Finally.
actually starting to look like a place.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. It's just so awesome being home. I love being out there and in Adventureland, but it's just being around my tribe just gives me life. So it's nice.
There's no place like home, right? You go on your adventures, but then, there's always home in your own bed. And yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to give it to you to do the prayer. Pray us in. Let me take myself out of the feed here for a moment. You got Hang on, Donna, we're having trouble hearing.
Oh.
Let's see. I think try again.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, much better.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to take a deep breath in and just get centered into this space. How good it is to know that the divine essence that is life is everywhere present. This divine essence lives in and through and around all things. It is in the very air that I breathe. It is in the mountains. It is in the streams, the rivers. It is in the very wings of a butterfly. And as I allow my body to breathe, that magnificent divine energy is behind all of it. It is breathing me, it is breathing you. It is that thing that tells my heart to beat and my brain to function and my hair to grow. That intelligence is behind all of this. And it is in that very spot that I am sitting in right now. I know that if that's true for me, then it has to be true for every single person that exists right now. We are all representations of the one. We are all in the same space that is life, breathing and pulsating and heart beating and hair growing. We're in life right now as we sit or lay or stand wherever we are. That God essence is breathing us. I'm so grateful for this knowledge and for this essence that is me right now. I'm grateful for the essence that is you, the essence that is mountain, that is ocean, that is sky, that is tree. All of it is working in divine right order for the upward trajectory of humankind and everything else on the planet and beyond. It's from that space of gratitude that I know that today's message is exactly what is needed to be heard. And healing will be taking place on a cellular level. We will connect with each other in the great web of life. I'm grateful for life itself. I'm grateful for God and how it is expressing in the world right now. And as we all take hand in hand and move forward in this expression, I'm grateful for the love of individuals who keep us going. I'm grateful for the open-heartedness of today's speaker and the love that she pours into this message as she shows us her essence. It is with joy and gratitude that I release all of these thoughts into the law, knowing that it's always working for the highest and best of all. And I say with lots of enthusiasm, and so it is, so let it be. Amen.
And so it is.
And so it is. That was so beautiful, Donna. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And nice to see you there, Norma. All right, well, I'm going to take you all out of the picture here for just a little bit, but we'll all be hanging out. We're all getting back together again at the end of the talk today. So thank you again for a beautiful prayer. We know that it's going to be a powerful service with such an intro. Thank you so much, Donna.
Wow.
Love you, ladies. All right, so let me see here. All right, so you've heard a little bit about our guest. You haven't heard her name. Her name is Elle O'Dowd, and I haven't known Elle for very long. She and I only met a couple of months ago, and when I heard her story, she was the presenter for River Phoenix Center for Peace Building, sharing the story you're going to hear with us today. And my heart was just blown wide open. I was so moved. I thought, this woman has got to share her message. Like, everyone needs to hear this message, but especially my spiritual community. And so I'm just very honored to be able to bring Elle onto our platform today and to give her the space to share her story. If you heard the introduction, you know that this story revolves around a restorative conversation between Elle and the young man that caused the death of her daughter. And so, as I said, it is a heartfelt message. She delivers it so beautifully. It comes straight from her heart, and I know that it will dive straight into yours. And so I'm just going to welcome Elle here and stop talking so much. Hello, you beautiful lady.
Hi, Cindy.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm grateful for the space to tell the story. Yeah, grateful.
Yes. And you know what I didn't say? I think I said it in the little short intro that you don't have like a website. There's no book. There's nothing like that that you're, kind of putting out there. But
There's no book yet.
yet.
No book yet. Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to hold that knowing for you that
Yeah.
the book is the next thing to follow this because, as I said, people need to hear this story. And so I think I'm just going to maybe take myself out of here for a little bit and just let you share, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. Take it
Yeah.
away.
Well, my presentation isn't low tech, it's no tech. So I have some pictures to show you, pictures of Emily. And so I'm just going to start. And I'm going to hold them up, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to see them. So this is Emily before she was a year old. It's Thanksgiving. There she is. We're at Thanksgiving dinner together. And I have a poem I'd like to read you. It's called Thanksgiving on Guernsey Street. I remember the weight of you, how you felt in my arms, the sweetness of your skin, nuzzling your neck and whispering in your shell-like ear. I remember kissing each finger and the palm of your hand and the fold in your elbow. Your fingers, thumb to index, curved like the petal of a flower. Your skin was not my olive color, but creamy, like heavy cream blushed with peaches. I found several photos from our house on Guernsey Street. We are in the front yard, standing together in the sunshine. It was a new house for us, remodeled with tile floors, windows that opened, and flowers planted in the flower beds. These are photos from your first Thanksgiving. I remember the pressed oak high chair with the porcelain tray you were sitting in, and the dress you were wearing covered in pink rosebuds, and your top knot of curls with hair like threads of silk. In another photo from the same day, your cheeks are covered in mashed potatoes, and you are pointing a green bean at your brother Joshua, and there were flowers on the table. There were flowers. I remember the summer after you were killed. I had to go through the things you left behind, and opening a box from your closet, I found your favorite dolls, each dressed in your very own baby clothes. You saved the dress you wore that Thanksgiving day. I wonder what you were thinking as you packed them away. Were you saving them for your own little daughter, still unborn? I cannot describe this pain. I believe I might die from it. I hold my breath until it finally passes. I have lost so much. So Emily was a bright spot. She was feisty and strong-willed and funny and kind. And she was a poet, a wordsmith. She loved writing poetry and after she died, I found stacks of little pieces of paper, all kinds of paper, where she had written lines of poetry that came to her on the spur of the moment. She was my little hippie chick, and she believed at some point in her life she was a mermaid. So in 2007, she and her best friend Kelsey decided to move to California, to Pacific Beach. We live in Florida. She lived in Florida then. And so they moved in with me for a couple months and saved their money, and then they packed all their things and drove across country and started a brand new life. And she said to me, "Mama, when I stand on the edge of my bed and stretch, I can see the Pacific Ocean from my bedroom window," which that was why she was there. That was part of the adventure. She worked at Starbucks and loved her job. She found her own family in Pacific Beach, and I missed her a lot. But knowing that she was building her own community, I was very, very proud of her and very happy for her. So in 2008, she and Kelsey went on the trip of a lifetime to the British Isles. They went to London and Glasgow and Edinburgh, and this is one of my favorite pictures of her. She's standing on a bridge, and it's raining, and her umbrella has blown inside out for the third time. And that her face, that laughter, that was M. She enjoyed life so much, and she loved the rain. It's just what I can hear her. Sometimes when she laughed, she snorted, and I suspect this was a time where she snorted. This is a picture of her at Starbucks. She was very beautiful, and she was kind as she was beautiful. She would call me on the phone, and I'd answer, and she would say, "Mama, do you want to hear a poem I just wrote?" As if I would ever say no. And then she would read me some words, and I would end up with tears on my chin, feeling jealous of her ability to put words together. And she loved her job. It was challenging, but she really loved her job. And she had an impact on the people that came to her to get coffee every morning, which I didn't know about that until after she was gone, and the whole community came together in such a wonderful way. And this is a picture of the last time we saw her alive. This was Thanksgiving at my mom's, and this is her beloved brother Joshua. That was the last time we saw her alive. And now I have a couple pictures to show you of her in the hospital, and just as a warning, they're hard pictures to see. So she's hooked up to a respirator, and so you might want to look away. She was an organ donor, and this is all this paraphernalia is she's hooked up to in order to keep her organs viable. And she was warm to the touch, and her cheeks were rosy, and it was hard to believe that she wasn't just going to open her eyes at some point. She died of blunt force trauma. And this is me kissing her goodbye for the last, before they took her away. There were 100 people in the operating room to harvest her organs, corneas, her heart, her lungs, her kidneys, her liver. Part of her liver went to a little girl who was a year old, who was dying. She had 7 days to live. So, on February 8th at 12:10 in the morning, I got a phone call from Kelsey's mom saying that Emily had been in an accident, and that I needed to come as soon as I could get there. So not a phone call any parent ever wants to get. And it was, I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, this can't be happening, and praying that God would take me instead. And so we got busy getting plane tickets, and I'm in my room packing, and Emily comes to me in her spirit, and she felt like a little dervish, like just swirling around me. And I heard her voice, and she said, "It's okay, Mama, it's okay." And I told her that if she needed to go, that I understood, and that I was going to be there as fast as I could get there. So it's still hard to think about those moments of being suspended in that place of not knowing how bad it is, and still having a little bit of hope that she would be there when I got there. But I got there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and all of her friends were there in the hallway waiting. She was at Scriptus La Jolla Trauma Center, and the minute I saw her, I knew that she was gone. She had spinal fluid, clear fluid, and blood in her ears. And her eyes, her pupils were fixed and dilated, and she was gone. So I felt I didn't really feel a lot of anything at that point. We just tried to, I just tried to keep going as best I could. And then we found out she was an organ donor, and we made the decision to let them harvest her organs. And so this was Sunday night, and Tuesday morning is when they came and got her and took her to the operating room. That was the last time I saw her. It's not an easy story to tell, and I can't ever seem to tell it without crying, because although it's been 11 years, the loss is still great. So the man that the accident happened when she was walking home from her Starbucks where she worked. She'd gone back to work to have dinner with her friend, and she was in the crosswalk, and had been at a bar drinking, and he didn't see her, and he turned into her, and she was thrown 16 feet through the air and died of blunt force trauma in the street. And it was his seventh DUI. I found out Emily's death was his seventh DUI, and he had 2 felony DUIs prior. And all I could think about at that point was knowing that alcoholism doesn't happen in a vacuum, and that he probably had some reasons for the drinking. And I wanted to talk to him, and the system isn't made for any kind of meeting between a victim and offender. They do everything in their power to keep you far, far apart. And so he had taken the worst thing that had ever happened to me in my life. He was responsible for that, and yet I knew nothing about him, and that bothered me a lot. And so over the course of the next year, that would have been 2009, Josh and I went out many times for the trial, and I have to tell you about her friends. She had all these beautiful young people that she had relationships with, family relationships with. It was really amazing how everybody came together and how much they loved her and how much the community loved her and how much everyone rallied around us during that time. And it was beautiful, and it was what sustained me for that year, was going, when I would have to go out there, was being able to be with the people that she loved and the people that loved her. And every time there was a court date, her friends filled the courtroom. We were never alone, and it was just amazing to see and to feel supported by her friends, and so many lives touched by the death, and um, touched in ways that lasted for years, and still touched by the death, traumatized by Emmy's death. And then the trial was over, and he was sentenced, and I came home for the last time from California, and that's when I fell into a darkness that I I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to live through it. The reality of her being gone hit home then in 2010, and the grief was so overwhelming at times. I thought I cannot live with this the rest of my life. I can't live in this place. I'd be driving down the road and I would think of her and I would see her face and see her hooked up to the machines, and I would think, I would have to pull off the road and park because the grief was so overwhelming. And I was angry. I was so angry. Um, how could this happen? How, how could this happen? How could you, and I had many long conversations with God. How could you allow this to happen to my beautiful girl at the beginning of her life? And why did it happen? And I got to a place where I couldn't say his name. I didn't say his name. I said the man who killed Emily, or the man who, if I talked about him at all, the man who took Emily's life. But I didn't want anything to do with him at that point. I didn't want to think about him. And he was sentenced to 20 years to life, and I thought that that probably was a good thing, because I didn't want that. I didn't want him to be able to hurt anyone else like he hurt Emily and like he hurt us. And so I was really at a point of thinking that I could not stay here. I could not stay on this side. And I began to think about ways to take my own life. But I have a son and his brother, and that would not have been fair to him. And I knew that if I did that, Emily would be really disappointed in me. The thing she wanted for me more than anything was for me to have a good life and to be happy. And so I was in a parking lot of a grocery store, and I saw a bumper sticker that said "Love Wins" on it. So I thought to myself, well, I believed in God, and so I thought I'm just gonna hold on to this idea that love will win. And so I began to pray in the mornings, that asked if I could just see love. And when I prayed like that, I would see, I just began to realize that love really is all around us. And we just don't see it sometimes, because it's not big things. It's just little things like two 85-year-old people still holding hands after being married for 55 years and still in love with each other. or a dad taking care of his little boy in the park and teaching him to throw a football. And there was the mockingbird in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and I couldn't sleep, and he came and just sang and sang and sang and sang and comforted me. So that helped in many ways. I decided not to go anywhere. I decided to stay on this side of the veil and see what happened and see if maybe love couldn't change things. My biggest prayer, most heartfelt prayer at that point was that her life count for something, and that something good, my prayer is that something good would come from it. And one of the hardest things for me to deal with, I love kids. I've worked with kids all my life, little kids, and my favorite job was working with little kids with autism. And I looked forward to being a grandma. I looked forward to being mother of the bride, and that had all been taken from me. And as the years passed, Emmy's friends got married and had their first babies. Some of them have had their second babies, and I have children in my life. And but the idea of being someone's grandmother, I don't have that, and that still is painful. So love wins, huh? I signed every letter I wrote. I signed emails with love wins, love wins, love wins, and slowly but surely, I began to see that that was the truth, and that always in the back of my mind, wanting to sit across from the man who took her life and have a conversation with him. So important to me. So in 2017, I'd taken care of my mom who until she passed away in 2017, and then my nephew in California said, "Come on out and be our nanny for the summer," as just a treat for having taken care of my mother. So I went, and I decided that that would be a good time for me to pursue having a conversation with the man who killed Emmy. And so I reached out to the DA who connected me with the Ahimsa Collective, and I was put together with two facilitators and we began the process of having a conversation. I really had no idea what it would look like or what it would feel like, or what I would say. It was just a direction I wanted to go in. It was a loose end. I never lost my desire to know about this person who had done this thing. So part of the process of having, it's called a victim offender dialogue. Part of the process of doing that is writing letters back and forth, and my facilitators, Allison and Martina, we would have a session together, and they would go and talk to Alan, and he would talk to them, and they would come back and talk to me, and we went back and forth until we covered a lot of bases. During that time, a lot of people showed up in my life who had been in my life and gone away, people that I just needed to touch base with came into my life, and a lot of issues came up for me that needed healing before the conversation, and it was a time of real emotional growth for me. So this was the end of 2018, and so we set the date for January 15th of 2019, and So I flew back out to Oakland, and Alan is in San Quentin prison. So we had our meeting in the visitors place at San Quentin. Very nerve-wracking to go into a big prison, and to have doors closed behind you, and a lot of guards around, and we had a small little yellow room that we were in, and I couldn't think of a thing that I was going to say to him at that point. Everything, we had an agenda. He wrote an agenda. I wrote an agenda. Two things that I wanted from him. One was that he look at Emily's pictures, the ones that I showed you. And the other thing was that I wanted to know about his childhood and the trauma that he endured that contributed to him being an alcoholic. Those were the two things. And even before my facilitators had to find out if he was capable of having a conversation, because some people aren't. What he said when they asked was absolutely, he'd been waiting for an opportunity to talk to me. And before I knew that, I thought how much courage that would take for him to face the mother of the woman that he had killed. And that was the moment that he became Alan to me then. And some of my close friends that I would have conversations with, they noticed that and said, you used to call him the man who killed Emily, and now you call him by his name. And that's what happened. I saw that he had courage. He became human to me at that point. So we had our meeting, and when he came in the door, he was late, an hour late. And by that time, I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to say or anything that I was going to do. And when he came in the door, the only thing I could think of was, I have a hug for you. Do you want it? And I say that to a lot of people sometimes because I'm a hugger. And of course he said, yes, ma'am. And then we were just hugging, and he was crying and I was crying. And then he looked like a prisoner. His face was gray. He was stooped over with guilt and shame, and he avoided eye contact, and he looked like a prisoner. And so we sat down, and the first thing he said to me was, don't you want to hit me? There may have been a time when I wanted that, but it wasn't then. And I said, no, I don't. He said, ma'am, I do not understand that. And I said, I don't understand that either, truthfully. So I said, how about if we both just say yes to this conversation? And he said, okay. And then we just began a conversation. I had a support person, and we had the two facilitators, and he had a support person. And I have to say that never in my entire life have I ever felt grace and love in such a way as in that room. It was palpable. And we talked for a while, and I asked him if it was time for him to see the pictures, and he said yes. And so we looked through the pictures that I showed you, and it was hard for him to see her. What I wanted I wanted him to know what he had done, who he'd taken. I wanted him to understand that. That's part of his taking accountability for the crime and for the impact of the crime. And he had great courage. And then he shared with me about his past and things that had happened to him when he was little, ways that he had been abused. And I began to see that the connections in his life and to understand him. And the longer we talked, the more of a human being he became to me. And that's what is so wonderful about the dialogues, is you have an opportunity to see this person that caused this harm as more than the harm. That's no small thing. So about 2.5 hours in, I looked at him and he didn't even look like the same man anymore. He had colored his cheeks. He was had straightened up. He would look at me. He was like a different person. It was amazing. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of the weight that I carried every minute of every day since her death, that I carried this weight, and I was not aware of it until it lifted during that meeting, and it was just gone. It was an amazing time together. And then, so this was in January. I went back to California for the summer of 2019, and I was invited to go to his graduation from a program called GRIP. It's Guiding Rage into Power. It's like a 1.5 year long program where men learn emotional intelligence. They learn to see the connection between their traumatic childhoods and their addictions and their violence. They take responsibility for their crimes, and they write an apology letter, and it's a great program. And Alan had been taking that and was graduating, and I asked if I could go to the graduation, and they said no. And I said, well, who else can I talk to? Because I think I'm really supposed to be there. So I talked to a couple people, and it's not easy to get into a prison like that. You have to go jump through hoops, and you have to have a pass, and people have to sign off. But I made it. 8:30 the morning of his graduation, they wrote my name on the guest list. So I slipped in right under the door. So he didn't know I was coming, and it was quite a moment. In the visitors lounge, lots of people, a band playing. It's a big occasion for the men who go through this program, and they wear caps and gowns, because a lot of them won't have the opportunity to graduate from college. Some haven't graduated from high school, so it's a big deal. It's quite an accomplishment for them to make it through this course. And so they were all dressed in their caps and gowns, and I had been asked to tell our story of the victim offender dialogue, and it's the first time anything like that had ever happened at the prison. And there was, I think, like 150, maybe 100 guys. I can't remember how many. The room was full of caps and gowns. And I was able to share our story, and I brought a couple pictures with me to show them. And halfway through, the person responsible for the program allowed Alan to come and stand. Allowed Alan to come and stand next to me at the podium while I finished telling the story. It's hard to explain what had to happen to bring us there. What a miracle it was for us to be there, for me to be there, and for us to be there together. I think it's probably the best outcome that I ever could have imagined. My last words to the guys was, love wins, love wins, love wins. And we got a standing ovation. And I have a picture. So this is Alan and me at his graduation, and I asked them if I could give him the honor cord that you see, the orange honor cord, and they said yes, so I was able to present him with that. Oh, am I over? I just want to say God's love is extravagant. There's no bottom to it. It's extravagant.
Love wins.
Love wins.
Love wins. That should have been the title. You know, Elle, just as I suspected, this is going to have to be a two-parter. We said that when we first talked about it. Yeah. So you're up for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where our stories intersect, right? Yeah. Doing this work and what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it's very different telling the story in this way than being in a room with you all.
Yeah.
And yeah. But it's better than nothing.
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. I just am so honored that you shared it with us. I'm just so touched. And I've heard it before and it still moves me and I still come to tears. And I just applaud your authenticity and your courage and your love and your grace. You're just an amazing soul. And I'm so grateful that life brought us together. Yeah. Woo. So we'll have to do part 2 next week.
Yeah.
If next week works for you.
It does.
Yeah, we should have planned this all out before, but it's such a beautiful work, and I so want people to hear this story and to know the possibility. You know, as you said at the beginning, it's just, you know, the worst thing that so many of us would ever imagine, and to think that something so beautiful could come from it. Yeah, that something meaningful and good and beautiful has come. And so I thank you. I thank you. And we'll do part 2 where we'll talk about restorative circles, the Ahimsa project, for people that want to know more about what this work is and how you were able to come together, and can we do more of this? And yeah.
Love to.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything else?
Oh, just thanks to who, I can't see your faces, but whoever you are, thank you for being here and for listening. And love wins, and love is extravagant. Extravagant.
Yes. Well, you know, we'll have an opportunity after this to come together in Zoom. We'll sign off this platform and then go on to Zoom, which would be it's in the Facebook chat for people that want to do that and join us. And then you'll have an opportunity to speak with some of the folks that may have been watching. And it's not recorded, so anybody can join and, you know, and speak and not have to worry about, you know, stuff getting all over the place. So anyway, I thank you again, and we will speak
Yeah.
again next Sunday. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
See you in a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Whew, wow, I have to breathe again. So moved by her story. Let's see, what is it time for us to do now? Oh my goodness. It's time for us to share our gifts and tithes. That's what it's time to do. Let me see, where is that? Oh my goodness. I'm just all verklempt right here. So yes, you know, we do have a center. We have a physical location, and right now, some of our air conditioning is back, some of it is not. But we rely on our donations and hope that you will consider tithing or giving a gift to the center so we can continue doing the work that we do. And we know that as we give, we receive. So if you want love, by golly, give love. And wasn't Elle's story just incredible? If you want money, give money. If you want friendship, give friendship. I mean, this is how it works. You know, what we give, we receive. And so we gladly take all gifts, and we've made it really easy for people to donate to the center. There's a phone number scrolling across the bottom, 352-320-5110. And what you do is text the amount of money you want to send to the center. So it can be any amount you want, and it's really easy. Once you set it up, it goes straight in. So we thank you for whatever donations you offer. I want to give thanks to the people who volunteer with the center, for our practitioners, and Richard, who's in the background, and Angel and Chris, and all the people who keep coming to the center and keeping us going. And so our affirmation, you can read it and say it to yourself if you choose. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so it is. So it is. And so let's take that banner off of there. Trying to think of what else we have going on. We'll have a newsletter coming out this week. That's what we'll have. And a new month starting. So we'll have a new theme and a new guest, but you already know that Elle is going to be back with us next week for part 2 of this session. And love wins. And so let me see what I'm going to do here. I think that'll be it. I think that will close us out. Let me do our closing prayer. The prayer for protection, which comes to us from our friends at Unity. And this particular prayer is from James Dillett Freeman. And we say, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just pray and affirm that all is well in your world, throughout the week, and wherever life takes you. Love and blessings, and join us on Zoom if you can. If not, we'll see you next week. Thanks again for joining us. Take care.